Hello and welcome to one of a series of videos showing the basic features of PhotoPhile, a photo management tool for the Apple iPad. This video is going to be going through the details of the Slideshow feature. Now you might be wondering, so it's a slideshow, it shows slides. There is a little bit more to it than that though, otherwise there wouldn't be much point in doing the video. So let's get the simple things out of the way first. The grid module, as you may have already seen, allows you to select a number of different photos. And once you've got those, the next thing that you may want to do is see them full screen. And there are various different ways of getting to do that. The most obvious one perhaps is to tap the slideshow button on the toolbar at the bottom of the page. And this comes straight into the slideshow, as you might expect. It's not doing anything. It's not automatically moving between the slides at the moment. It simply shows the last one that was selected. So there are other ways of doing this. If I come back into the grid, I can double tap on one of these, and that will also come into the slideshow. Now, one of the quirks of this is that if you select nothing and you double tap, then it automatically selects everything for you, because it seems that many people expect that if you simply double tap something in the grid side, that you should then be able to swipe through everything. If you already have some selected, as this does, and you double tap, then it only allows you to swipe through the ones that are selected. So hopefully that keeps the majority of people happy with regards to what's actually available in the slideshow. So let's come back in. You can see there at the top of the page we have quite a bit of information about this particular photo. We have the star rating, and that is obviously the same star rating that's available in the grid module. If I set that to be 4 stars and come into the slideshow, then you can see that it shows 4 stars at the top. That's not just for display though. You can change the star rating here in exactly the same way as you would in the grid, and the settings are carried between the two of them. You can also change the flags. The reasoning behind having these filtering type controls in here is very simply to allow you to review your photos at a decent size, and then to set star ratings and accept or reject depending on what you've seen in here. I'll come back to these controls a little later on. The next controls, the blue controls at the top, are what you may expect them to be. They allow you to go to the first and the last and the play button. When you press play, the borders fade away, you get a full screen display, and it automatically starts moving through the photos that you have selected. You can bring back the control bars by a single tap, and then you can press pause. If you want to have a slideshow without those bars disappearing, then you can hit the padlock icon in the top right. Then if you play, the toolbars stay exactly where they are. Okay, so I'm going to stop that again. The next control along the top is fairly simple. That just says this is number 6 of 166 selected photos. Nice and easy. And across at the right we have the padlock, which you've already seen, and the I symbol. And the letter I opens up an information display. This shows some of the information that is available on the right hand panel in the grid. If I just switch back in there for a moment and we bring this out, you can see that there's a lot of information available about the current selected photo. So if I come back into the slideshow, you may want some of that selected here. Now that's a fairly busy display that's there. The first thing you can do with this is drag it around the screen. You can put it anywhere you like, you can put it over there, you can put it smack bang in the middle if you want, and if you rotate the screen then it does reorient itself properly, but since I'm recording this on a PC, it's a little difficult to demonstrate that. You can also control how wide it is by dragging the right hand edge. And the final control on here is a long tap. If you tap and hold, then you get to choose the information that you want displayed. So you can see here I have camera model and megapixels selected. Now the other thing you can do, if you notice on there it has the titles to the left and the information to the right. If that's taking up too much space, then you simply switch off show titles and it just shows the information. Whether that's useful or not depends on the information that you're displaying. You can have as much or as little displayed on there as you like, so if I get rid of the focal length and lens from the last display, it simply doesn't show anything at all. And of course you can switch that off by tapping the I button again. The controls at the bottom of the page are simply for moving between the various different tabs, so I don't think I need to cover those any further. So one other thing that I'd like to cover in the slideshow is the ability to view very large photos. What I'm going to do is come into a different collection, and somewhere in here, in fact why not, let's use a filter. Somewhere in here we have some fairly chunky photos, so let's make that greater than 40 megapixels. Right. So I'm not going to wait for all of those to display, I'm going to highlight, let's say, that one. Now, I switch on the information display, and the top item on there is showing that that is 41 megapixels. If I just switch the titles back on again, that makes it a little clearer. Now, you could well argue that if you transferred these photos on using iTunes into the Photos app, then you would get them on the screen exactly the same way as this does, and chances are it would be faster. There is a catch though. When you transfer photos using iTunes, it silently recodes them to JPEG, and it also downsizes them. I discovered this by accident some time ago. I transferred in some large photos for testing, which were 70, 80 megapixels. And if I transferred them on using iTunes, then they arrived on the iPad as 6 megapixels, not 60, or 80, or for some of the larger ones, 150. The difference with PhotoPhile is that it keeps things as you tell it to. If you transfer on an 80 megapixel photo, you will get an 80 megapixel photo. The problem there, of course, is that many iPads may not be able to decode that. PhotoPhile can. You may not be able to see in the video, but what's happening there is that as I scroll around this, there is a little green bar appearing at the bottom of the page. And what that's doing is saying that it's decoding another section of the photo. And as each section is decoded, it switches from the low resolution version that it uses for basic displays to a higher resolution version. So this is a pixel for pixel display of a 40 megapixel photo. Let's just make that a little bit harder. Do we have any at 60 megapixels? Yes, we do. Let's try another wide one. Okay, 62 megapixels, and all I'm going to do here is double tap in the middle of it. Double tap is zoom to the other end, so if you're zoomed all the way out, it will zoom in. If you're zoomed all the way in, it will zoom out. And hopefully again you can see that that there has displayed fairly quickly a pixel for pixel accurate version of a 65 megapixel photo. Now, the final thing that I need to cover here is some of the settings. I'm going to come into there and scroll down to the slideshow options. If you're using it yourself, you may well want to have all of those edit controls. You remember there were stars and flags, and you can actually edit the captions and comments from the slideshow as well. You can switch those options off in here. So I'm going to switch off flags, stars and labels, but I'm going to allow the comment and caption editing. So if I come back into the slideshow, you can see at the top now that those options are gone. This may be of use to you if you're using PhotoPhile to show portfolios to clients, perhaps, where you would like them to be able to see the photos and to leaf through them, but perhaps not to change your star ratings and flags. On the other hand, if you're handing your iPad to someone intending them to apply their own star ratings, perhaps you've asked the client to choose between one of a different set of photos, then you would want those switched on. The other thing you can do, as I said, is to change the captions and comments. So if you simply long tap on the main screen, then you can see here you have standard edit boxes. So I'm just going to cancel that. You can switch off the ability to edit one or both of those. So I'll just come back into settings and switch the main controls back on. So allow all editing, come back in there, and you can see now that we have the colour swatches at the top for applying labels. So that covers the main details of the slideshow module. Hopefully that's given you a better idea of what some of the less obvious controls are and of why it does things the way that it does. Thanks for watching.